working as many hours as you are this week. I can say that for
Dude,
sure.
it's been early mornings and late nights and finding long snappers from D3 colleges, and it's crazy, man. It's a crazy time right now with the transfer portal and with everything going on in college football. So I'm glad that it's not the same way in the NFL. Otherwise, man, like, yeah, Drake May just entered the transfer portal. He's going to the Rams. It would suck. It would really, really suck. But
Yeah, the closest thing we got was Darnold and Gino
yeah,
last year.
so
Or Gino was like, "Fuck this, I'm out."
yeah. So welcome. It's good to have you back. This is what, your second time on? Am I correct in saying that?
Second or third, one of those.
Yeah.
Marking the occasion, by the way, with a New England whiskey
There we go.
from Litchfield, Connecticut.
Wow.
Wait, autofocus. There we go.
There we go. Well, welcome. Obviously, here to talk about the New York Jets, everyone's favorite team. Our favorite team, as you could tell. A banter, I know, is going to have a great time hearing that one. But no, we're here to talk about the Patriots, and so let me ask you this, because I think it's a really important question to kind of establish. But before we talk about what's happened this season, you know, do you have anything on on kind of what happened there at the end of last year? Obviously, with us winning only 4 games and Gerard Mayo ultimately getting the sack. What was kind of your take on that whole situation and kind of the dysfunction that went on last year and kind of why it all failed?
It from an outside observer. Oh, sorry, my cat's insulin monitor's going off at the moment. As an outside observer, and also just based on talking to a couple people that have more inside knowledge than me, the building was a complete and total mess. It felt like there was a lack of accountability from top to bottom. It felt like there was a lack of discipline from top to bottom. Even just running practice apparently was an issue, which that kind of shocked me because, again, Gerard had been through so many Bill Belichick practices and had been around as a player and as a coach for so long. You would think that just like the basic structure of a practice would be manageable, and apparently it wasn't. And there were obviously talent deficiencies on the roster that were built up over several years by Bill's drafting habits. But I still think, even going into last year, and I remember saying this last summer, or not last summer, last summer, there was more talent on that team than 4 wins. I'm not saying they were good, but there was more talent on the team than 4 wins. And it felt like whatever the opposite of talent maximization is, call it talent minimization, that's what Gerard Mayo was doing. And so you bring in a Mike Vrabel, who is famous for talent maximization. I mean, for God's sake, he took the Titans to the AFC Championship game. And yeah, obviously the roster is better this year. They spent some good money in free agency. They hit on a lot of draft picks. But you have a lot of young players playing really good football right now. You have a lot of veterans. Milton, before he got hurt, was having, in my opinion, maybe his best year. Even though he had a great year in Philly, like, I still think Milton might have been playing even better ball in New England. So again, you bring in a coaching staff that maximizes what they have, and all of a sudden you have a recipe for going from a 4-win team to a potentially, dare I say, 12-win team, and fighting for division lead and first seed in the AFC in 1 year. Like, it's not. There's no amount of talent that can give you 8 more wins year over year. There also has to be a coaching component too, and I think that much is clear.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the situation last year, I think.
I think my sound might have.
Your sound is fine on our end. Well, in the meantime, I'll keep on keeping on. But I think a large part of the issue with the team last year was just a lack of experience.
Sometimes things like this happen. All right, so that's connected.
Oh boy.
Stand by.
Yep, you're all good. To me, like, I think a large part of the issue with what went on with the team last year is, I'm just gonna let him go. I'm gonna let him go. He'll figure it out eventually. Can you hear me, Brett?
There we go. You got me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Aha!
There we go. As I was saying, one of the things that I I think played a large part into it is just the lack of coaching experience on the team last year. Obviously, they had the only guy with any level of head coaching experience on that staff prior to being a part of the staff for the New England Patriots was Ben McAdoo, and he was like an offensive analyst for the team. So to me, it just didn't really spell.
And Ben McAdoo.
Yeah. So you had all of these guys who, are first time defensive coordinator. Alex Van Pelt, I think, was probably a guy who had a lot of experience doing coaching in the past, but never really head coaching. And really, it was to me, I think inexperience really drove that team. And I think to a larger degree, what drove that team was coaching result over process, right? I think I think they wanted the results to match the direction that they wanted from their scheme, and I think it led them to making very drastic changes that and very quick changes that ended up negatively affecting the team. Like, for example, they were hell-bent on having Jacoby Brissett be the starter at the start of the season when even they themselves acknowledged that Drake May was the objectively better quarterback coming into the year. And I think that it was thinking like that led them to where they ended up. And like you said, I think the lack of accountability from the team and from coaches. Like, for example, when Gerard said, I think it was after the Jacksonville game in London, where he was like, once the players step out on the field, there's nothing I can do for them. And I just don't think that that's an acceptable answer for a head coach to say in a situation where you are coming off a bye week and you still lose the game.
And the team just wasn't trying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could see it on the field, like, they just weren't trying. Like, credit to the Dolphins, by the way. Again, they're not very good this year. They're playing hard for Mike McDaniel.
Mm-hmm.
And I had thought culturally, after 5 weeks of this season, I thought everybody was going to go into the tank because this was not a very good football team. Obviously, they had nothing at quarterback because Tua has massively regressed in the last 2 years. And I really thought that they were going to go in the tank. But, without Jalen Ramsey being the poison in the locker room that we know he was in Miami, and I'm not saying that I'm happy that Tyreek Hill got injured, but there was a noticeable vibe shift when he was no longer in the building every single day. And this was something I had talked about in the offseason where I was like, until those two guys are gone, the culture isn't going to improve. And you have been seeing over the last month with those two guys not in the building, like, yeah, Tua has been bad, but guys are playing hard for Mike McDaniel. So I really do think that McDaniel started to come into his own as far as commanding the room. He just kind of had to get the rot out of the tree, which is now gone. And to a degree, I almost feel like Tua maybe has contributed to that rot because, my God, have you seen a starting quarterback with, like, more bad press conferences in one season?
I was going to say those quotes have just been brutal all year.
They've been awful. So it's like Tua, I also think needs to be gone.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, there's a massive talent deficiency in Miami. But I kind of would keep McDaniel at this point because who are you going to get in this year's coaching cycle that's better than him anyway? And you get a new GM, you get a talent infusion, you figure out quarterback. But just seeing the players play for McDaniel without the bad influences in their locker room over the last 6-7 weeks, I think has been eye-opening. And I do think that you could give him another year and just see what happens. And worst case scenario, they're still bad in 2026. Fine, fuck it. Like, go get Jesse Minter in 2027. But it's at least worth a shot to me.
Yeah. I mean, who could have seen the Tua contract aging poorly, right? Like, it's one of those contracts where you kind of just felt like from the start, you're like, what are you doing? Why are you giving him this contract? Like, he's not a $200 million player, let alone a $200 million quarterback. And it's like,
I mean, if you were getting the Tua of a couple years ago,
yeah,
considering the cap percentage and the rate that the cap is going up and everything like that, I didn't. I felt like the contract wasn't going to age bad until after next year
mm-hmm.
because I thought you still had a few good years left based on what Tua was playing like at the time it was signed. It's just because of injuries, he nosedived so much faster than I think even Miami expected.
100%.
And was there ever an illusion he was going to be a top 5 quarterback? No. But I really didn't think the contract was that unmanageable. It's just he became so much worse, so much faster
Mm-hmm.
than I think that anybody ever imagined.
Yeah, and to kind of get back on topic with the Patriots, I think that one of the interesting parts about the Patriots is that they've kind of never been in a situation where they are like cap strapped to such a like massive degree, and a lot of that is just good financing work by the front office to just continue to make sure that and also making cutthroat decisions on players that are making high earnings, right? Like speaking on that 2024 season, the decision to move on from Matthew Judon as early as they did, I think shocked a lot of people, and they got a good pick for it. And that pick ended up being a player who this year has been an impact player for them. So to I think moves like that have definitely helped the Patriots get to the situation that they're in this year, and to kind of
Was it Jared Wilson that they
it
got with
was
that
Jared
pick?
Wilson, and they also got
Yeah,
I think a fourth round pick as well for trading back. So
that's good work right there. Like again, we can clown on them for the 2024 draft
mm-hmm.
and the 2023 draft and the 2022 draft, and basically just only getting Gonzalez and May out of like the previous 4 years. But
Yeah.
2025, I don't know who was making the decisions on 2025, but whoever did,
It,
let them cook.
it's kind of unbelievable, right? Like you get your franchise left tackle with the first pick. You get a running back who's now like what is it, leading in rookie of the year odds now for offensive rookie of the year.
I think he's only like 20 yards off the rookie lead now because he's been walking down Judkins for the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been really funny to kind of follow Trayvion's development because at the start of the season they really didn't use him all that much. They really, I think they, you could even see it in preseason where he really struggled in pass protection, and then it all kind of culminated in that Miami game where he was just getting, I mean, just decimated by linebackers and by Bradley Chubb, and like it just wasn't a pretty game, and I think that was kind of their dog housing the rookie moment that they've kind of had over the last couple of years where, a guy fucks up and they throw him in the doghouse for a couple of weeks. But then, the necessity of having him on the field during the Bills game and because Ramondre just could not hold on to a football to save his life. And you've just seen over the last couple of weeks him just continue to develop, and, he's turned into one of the better running backs in football this year. And it's really something to see, even if like, because it's kind of funny after the game you look at it and it's like, okay, well this guy has 160 yards and 90% of his production came on 3 carries. So,
And that's something that I also not to reopen wounds from that Bills game,
mm-hmm.
but this is something that I had talked about with EJ on Bootleg this week, where the style, or rather the type of bad run defense the Bills have is honestly what kept them in the game in a weird backwards logic kind of way. Because if you're looking at the 6 games this year where the Patriots or where the Bills have allowed 185 plus yards rushing, A, they're 4-2, which is insane. B, in 4 of those games, they led in time of possession despite allowing 185 plus yards rushing. And that's because their run defense is very nothing, everything. Like they are 4th in tackles for loss against the run while also being 2nd in explosives given up, and they're 1st by a lot in terms of explosives given up due to missed tackles. And so if you're looking at how the Patriots ran the ball on them, yeah, they almost got 250 yards, but a lot of it was explosives,
Mm-hmm.
which is not chewing the clock. And that's why Buffalo was able to come back and run the ball 37 times because they had the time to. They literally had 35 minutes of time of possession in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, what I want the Patriots to work on for round 3 of this matchup is being able to get 5 and 6 yards at a time rushing and have rushing success that also bleeds the clock. Because at this point, I think it's safe to say you're probably not going to stop the Bills' offense when they get rolling, especially if Milton's banged up the rest of the year. I know it's possible he comes back to the playoffs, but even then,
He's not
less
going to
than
be
100%
100%,
Milton Williams.
right? Like,
Yeah, so it's like you're not going to stop them from grinding you down, so you just need to not let them on the field, which means, again, I'm not saying don't get explosives, but they need to work on like the meat and potatoes run game that is like an 11 or 12 play drive and really shrink the game down to 9 possessions. Because if you give the Bills 13 possessions, you're just going to lose.
yeah.
Like you just are. So you have to win on efficiency, which sounds terrifying doing it against Josh Allen. But if anybody could, it's Drake May.
Yes, 100%. And it's been interesting because there was some quotes that came out from Mike Vrabel in the aftermath of this game, and Boston media kind of ran with it a little bit, saying that like Mike Vrabel's basically saying that he doesn't trust Josh McDaniels with his play calling, because one of the words that he was using a lot in that interview was like, one of the things that you have to learn in football is like trust, especially with your coordinators, and trust that the play call that they're putting out there is the right call. And there were some people that kind of ran with that as like, oh, he's taking a slight at McDaniels for specifically the second half play calling, where the Patriots, I think, had, what was it, 3 or 4 total possessions, and they
three carries on 18 plays. Yeah.
So,
but they also averaged 23 yards a carry on those. So again, that comes back to, yeah, you're getting you're getting rush yards, but you're getting them all at once. So, slow the pace of the game down a little bit. Or quicken it up.
And I think what this Bills game kind of exposed for the Patriots, more than anything, in my opinion, is A, a lack of pass rush, and B, a lack of depth. Because you can't have your starters out there every single play of every single game. Like, that's just not a sustainable model, and it's how players get injured. And I think the Patriots just found it so difficult to continue to, because especially without Robert Spillane and relying on like Marte Mapu to be a true off-ball backer and cover, like it's just not a recipe for success. And I, while this Patriots team is probably going to go on a somewhat considerable playoff run here, especially without the Chiefs and the Bengals and potentially the Ravens, who we're facing this week in the playoffs, it still does show that there's a lot of areas of improvement for the Patriots, and it's actually something that we got asked a lot of questions about with our Q&A questions. So
yeah, I'd love to touch on those for sure.
Yeah, let me see if I can't find one really quickly. So one of the questions that was asked came from. Let me see here. Sorry, I need to organize this a little bit better, but.
By the way, while you find that, as a note for people in the chat, yes, it is possible the Patriots go on a lengthy playoff run. If they run into Houston in the first round, that's what I'd be worried about. That lengthy playoff run could be 60 minutes long pretty quickly if you run into that defense with an injured Will Campbell and an injured Milton Williams and, newcomer Drake May against that D'Amico Ryans defense. Like, that's the matchup I don't want. I'd rather they play against the Chargers. I'd rather they play against basically anybody other than those teams. Again, that's assuming they win the AFC East.
Because they're on a roll right now, and one of the things that a lot of these veterans turned commentators talk about is that like when you get into this part of the season, what you are is what you are, right? And so I think the Patriots were and still are to a large degree riding the high of just this insane winning streak, right? And I think it's catching back up to them now that we're later on in the season and players are more weathered and the depth is kind of showing itself. And Houston's always been talented. Like they have a quality edge rotation. They have a fantastic secondary. They've got a quarterback who I'm not going to say has been there and done that, but certainly has playoff experience, and they have weapons that are quality and are deep. And I think Houston is showing who they are now, rather than being defined by what they were early on in the season. I just think they're playing catch up from having to have waited so long to show who they really are.
Can I give you a hot take?
Sure.
It's better for the Patriots to be the 5 seed.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like, let's just say the 1 seed's out and Denver's going to get it. Let's just pretend that's the reality.
Mm-hmm.
If it becomes clear Denver's getting the 1 seed, I want New England at the 5 and playing the Steelers.
Mm.
Because if they're the 2, and let's say they beat out the Bills for the division, and they're the 2, and they have to host Houston. If you have to play a wild card round game, regardless, I think matchup is more important than home field advantage. Give me the Steelers. Don't give me the Texans at home. I'd rather go to Pittsburgh because let's be honest. Without 5 fumbles, they probably beat the fucking shit out of the Steelers early this season.
100%. And I
So it's
also
like I want to run that back.
and also, I mean, here's another point that you probably didn't know: the Patriots are undefeated on the road this season, so they have not lost a game on the road. All 3 of their losses came at home to the Raiders, the Steelers, and now the Bills. So,
Dude, that Raiders game, thinking back, I'm like, really?
yeah, I mean, honestly, the reason why they lost that game is because Geno Smith just had the corner route open like almost every single play. Like that in the Miami game showed why Gonzo is such an important player for them, because when you have to roll out Alex Austin or Charles Woods or play Marcus Jones on the outside, it's just not a recipe for success. And actually, one of the questions that we got asked, speaking of, let me see if let me just find it really quickly. It's about Carlton Davis. This is from Gator. I've seen him get a lot of flack from fans, but how do you think Carlton Davis has performed this season? What are some things that he's been good at / struggled at, and where would you have him ranked compared to other cornerback 2s around the league?
Ooh, compared to other CB2s around the league, that's a good question.
Maybe more broadly, just corners around the league, because
I mean, probably somewhere in the 50 range out of all corners, right?
Okay.
But so mid-level CB2.
Yeah.
And we know what his skill set is. He's a big, long, physical corner, kind of plays into the Patriots archetype. Struggles in space, doesn't quite have the wheels that he used to, has to play top down to survive, that is. Again, mid-level CB2. If Gonzo is injured, they're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is, because especially if you're going up against...
Which is why I took offense earlier this week to your tweet about Gonzo being traded to the Lions. Very upset about that.
Believe me, I wouldn't have tweeted that if I didn't think it was 5% possible. People don't think it's 5% possible. Trust me, it's 5% possible.
Wow.
But again, would I do it? No. I think people need to realize, my position is not trade Gonzo. I'm just saying it's more possible than you think. People don't think Sauce is going to get traded either.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, if you're looking at the dollar amount for corners, because that market jumped so much in the last 2 years, and now it's going to be a $30+ million a year position. And DBs historically are the most injured position group, and it's not even close.
Like you're seeing with Surtain this year.
Surtain, Sauce got injured. That's a lot of money that won't be on the field if they get banged up, which how many corners play every single game, every single year? Even Gonzo himself doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He's had one healthy season. So, again, teams are hesitant to pay top corner money for that reason, especially when the market recently jumped. They used to get away with it because corner was a suppressed market. It's not suppressed anymore. Stingley reset it with his 3-year deal that's basically entirely guaranteed. So what do you think Gonzo's going to want? He's going to want 3 years, $90+ million, all of it guaranteed.
Yeah.
Do you want that, or you want Max Crosby?
and I mean, Gonzo's going to be extension eligible this offseason. And
yeah, so they got to make a decision.
And we've seen it over the years where, like for example, to use it as an analogy, like the Cowboys waiting around on Micah Parsons to get his extension done, the number just keeps getting more expensive, and eventually it just gets to a point where you have to make a decision. Either sacrifice a good portion of your roster to pay one player, or trade the player and at least get some excess value out of him, rather than allowing him to hit the free agent market and then getting some bullshit third-round compensatory pick. So,
and I'll tell you this much. If he gets all-pro for a second year in a row, you think he's not going to hold out, so he's going to force the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to know what they want to do.
Yeah.
If they pay him, fine. Like I'm okay with it, but
Mm-hmm.
like there is a calculation being done here because of the position that he plays.
And eventually,
So
it's going to get to a
just need
point
to,
where the market event like there has to be a point where these markets end up capping out eventually. Like I have a hard time imagining that teams are gonna and this is the talk of 15, 20 years ago where to say that a corner could even make 20 million a year, it was just a wild statement, and now we're talking 30
yeah.
million as the standard. And I just can't imagine that we're going to get to a point where a corner is getting paid like 50, 60 million a year.
I don't think they'll ever get
Yeah.
to that point. That'll just be reserved for receivers, pass rushers, and quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any offensive tackles that would get that high.
Yeah.
So,
So.
but again, the Bengals the Bengals felt forced to do the Jamar and the T deal, but there is no universe where that makes economic sense,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Well, especially because that
There's no,
style of team building is just it just doesn't make sense. You build from the trenches out.
yeah. So again, like it is getting a little bit ridiculous what some of these positions are making, but that's because these teams are taking way too damn long to make a decision, and so the price keeps going up.
Mm-hmm.
Like you look at the Nico Collins contract for the Texans, it's like 24 million a year because they did a 3-year deal early. They did the Stingley deal early, and it's 3 years, and like you got to get ahead of it, which is why I think they need to make their decision on Gonzo like this offseason. They can't drag it out one more year, or all of a sudden you're going to come back and it's going to be 35 million in 2026. So it's like shit or get off the pot.
Yeah. And speaking of of talking about how the Patriots can kind of improve in the offseason, there were a couple of questions that we got from Canada and a couple of other people talking about looking at this upcoming offseason. What would you prioritize as the Patriots front office? What comes to mind? What comes to mind for most is a Gonzo extension and re-signing defensive tackle / fullback revelation Kyrie's Tonga. Where would you be looking to allocate resources?
Beyond Gonzo, I'm looking at edge and I'm looking at future wide receiver one because obviously Diggs is the culture setter in that room. I still want Diggs back for 2026, but we need the heir apparent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So and the Patriots are now in a position where I think you could entertain a trade up if your guy is there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's just say Carnell Tate slips a little bit for insert reason here. I'm not saying he will, but let's just say they somehow get in striking range of trading up for Carnell Tate. That's a move that I would entertain. Or you take whatever picks you were going to use for Carnell Tate and go get Max Crosby. Or if there's an edge, like let's say Ruben Bain is slipping because some people think he's not going to the top 10. He could go in the teens and the 20s. Brugler said he might even go day 2. If there's any franchise that has made weird body types work before, it's New England, and I feel like Ruben Bain would fit well there. So if he slips, go get him. But I do feel like they are in a position where they could take some assets and go up and just get a needle mover
Mm-hmm.
because that's what they need. They just need a needle mover at one of these premium positions to kind of capitalize on this Drake May window.
And to me, what's kind of interesting is that the Patriots are actually in a position where, a cut or two or a new contract revision or two, and you could be talking about the Patriots with another $80 million in cap space this offseason. If you look at it, for example, and actually a couple of people asked about this as far as the run scheme and how you can kind of improve it to make it more consistent. A couple of people pointed out that Michael Onwenu is kind of not really a scheme fit for what they want to do, especially with Travion Henderson kind of being more of a wide zone runner where he's kind of wanting to push the perimeter. That's not really Mike Onwenu's game. He's more of a down blocking guard, and he's out of guaranteed dollars after this year. You can basically save like 18 or 19 million by cutting him or trading him. Or if you revise his contract, you could probably get him at a lower AAV. I definitely think that there's going to be something happening with Mike Onwenu this offseason because you can't walk into 2026 with a contract with no guarantees. That's just not how football works, especially for a guy who you paid, what was it, like that kind of like Elton Jenkins kind of money to.
Mm-hmm.
I
Because he
just
plays everything. Yeah.
yeah, everything in the context that he is a passable right tackle at times
Yeah.
in short spurts. So
But on the scheme thing, like yes, Travion has had flashes as push the edge and slash and go guy on outside zone. This team is still 30th in outside zone rate
mm-hmm.
in the NFL this year. They're fourth in man concepts. So it's one of those. Do you want to develop Travion to bang in between the tackles, or do you want to just let Travion be that edge run kind of threat, your Jameer Gibbs kind of guy, and build the offensive line around that skill set that already exists? I don't know what the correct answer is for that. Maybe they think that they can get Travion to be a better inside runner. Hell, I think he's already made strides at becoming a better inside runner. In which case, okay, we can do on Wenu again. Maybe just throw some guarantees at him and keep him around so we don't have to plug an extra hole this offseason. But it really comes down to they have to make a decision between, is it easier to fit the hand to the glove or the glove to the hand?
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting as well because, I think what made Travion such an interesting prospect coming out was that he wasn't the feature back in in the Ohio State backfield, right?
Yeah.
I think them bringing in Quinshon and him having more. I think him having Quinshon allowed him to have more success because he was able to be less gassed later in games and deeper into the season, where he could take advantage of that sort of wear and tear and exhaustion, and be more of a guy who had higher yards per carry on a rate basis.
Well,
On
and
a
you
lower
also
amount
have
of
to
touches.
remember, college football has changed drastically in the last few years where, seasons aren't 13 games anymore, right? If you're going on a playoff game or playoff run, you have 12 games in your season. Then you have a conference championship. That's 13. Then you have the first, second, and third round of the play. You're playing a 16-game season. So in
Mm-hmm.
college, if you want to go on a true playoff run, like, yeah, it's nice to have Ashton Genty. You're giving him 25 carries a game. College kids aren't used to doing that for 16 games.
Mm-hmm.
They've never played that many games before in their life. So Ohio State went out and they got two backs because they're like, hey, we're loading up for an actual real run here. We know how many games that's going to demand. We need guys that can spread the load, and they did that. So hell, it's half the reason why they dropped their plays per game down so much too.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they wanted to keep guys fresh for an NFL length season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which still isn't even the length of an NFL season now because NFL season is 17 regular season plus 4 in the playoffs. So it's like every single level that these guys jump up, they have to play more games, and they are never ready for it.
Well, and
They are never ever ready for it.
it's why I think that for not to get too off topic, but like with Georgia, I think why they show such sustained success is that they don't redshirt guys. They rotate their defensive line, and it's kind of been the narrative the last couple of years. Like, yeah, well, Trayvon Walker's an interesting prospect and all, but his statistical profile is like significantly lower than the guys around him. And it's like, well, the guys around him are playing significantly more snaps, whereas Georgia wants to keep him healthy later in the season because they know they're going to make those deep playoff runs. And it's the same thing for their running back room and their receiver room, and they just have more sustained success overall because guys are less, worn down over the years. So
Yeah, that's why Oregon does the same thing. They come at you in waves at this point, and they recruit for that
yeah,
so they can make it work.
yeah. Um, there was some more questions in here about kind of the run game, and
Mm.
there were some questions basically about EPA per play, per like based on the gap, and that even though they do like to do the wide zone stuff with Travion, and like you said, it's been markedly unsuccessful. Basically the whole left side of the line has been kind of a liability in the run game. Have you seen anything schematically that they can kind of fix from a run game perspective, or is it just kind of like these are half of the line is rookies, and these guys just need to learn, build up their game strength and basically learn how to deal with that kind of physicality?
They need more vertical displacement. Like that's really it. Like if you want to hit these cuts at full speed, you need the running back to not have to kind of bob and weave before he even gets to that area where he can put his foot in the ground and go. Like the block has to develop, which means the running back has to have the space to get to the point where the block is developing and you're coming off these double teams and you're kind of creating the seams with the linebackers in the second level. If you don't get vertical displacement in the first half second and the running back can't get to the spot he needs to get to hit where the actual seam is, then the whole run is dead in the water.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, at the end of the day, running the ball first and foremost is about physicality. Like, yes, angles and timing matter, but physicality is what creates that angle and it's what creates that timing. You have to win on the strike. They have to create more displacement on the line of scrimmage, even in a zone concept. Like, zone concepts isn't just about, like, oh, I'm going to pin you here and we're going to trust the running back to find the lane. Like, that's an element of it, but, like, it's so much easier to do it when the 3 technique is 2 yards down the field, not 2 yards in the backfield. So you got to, for lack of a better word, just be stronger.
Yeah.
And yeah, these are young players. They're going to take a bit to get there, but they need to get stronger.
And actually, one of the things that I'm curious about, and if you had any thoughts on it, it's a question from Kostler. How would you address the Patriots O-line in the offseason? I'm personally of the mindset to let Bradbury walk, slide Wilson back to center, and attack left guard in the draft or free agency. Now, one thing to note, Bradbury isn't going to walk this offseason. He's on a 2-year deal. But
what's the guarantees on it, though?
I am not entirely sure, but I do believe that it's one of those, like, balance deals where, like, the money is kind of equal throughout. Like 2 years, 10 million, something like that.
Beyond the guarantees, though, here's the risk of doing that. Yes, Drake will be in year 3. Yes, Drake is very smart. Having young center and young quarterback is a dangerous combination when it comes to calling protections.
Mm-hmm.
One of the values of Garrett Bradbury, say what you want about him as a talent, he's played a lot of football and he knows how to call protections.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know the exact mechanism for who's overruling who right now. I know back in the day with Tom, like, he ultimately had final say on protections and did what he wanted at the line of scrimmage. But you need to have somebody there with a lot of games under their belt that can at least get Drake into a good starting point. And then if you want to give Drake final say where if he sees something, he can call for a slide or whatever. But I think having a veteran center that can take that off his plate, you know, in the first 5 seconds when you get to the line of scrimmage while Drake is focusing on other stuff, like, let me find my safeties, let me do all that normal stuff. Let me talk to the receivers, let me handle motions. If you have somebody else doing the protection part of it, it's just so much easier. And I would be worried having a young center and a young quarterback and potentially having stuff slip through the cracks.
Yeah, I mean, and also, if you look at it this offseason, there really isn't, like, this flurry of names that pop out at you as, like, oh, that's a guy we got to go attack. Like, you know, Joel Bitonio is not the Joel Bitonio of even a couple of years ago, right? Like, he's suffered several injuries. He's definitely regressed. Like, basically, you would be bringing in like a hired mercenary on a one year deal. And at that point, it's better to just roll with a guy who knows the system, and is now in year 2 of that system. So,
and how many holes do you want to make in one off season?
Exactly. And then at that point, you'd be having Will Campbell coming off an injury at left tackle. You have, you know, Jared Wilson at center. And then if you want to make a meaningful upgrade, you make a meaningful upgrade through the draft, and now you have a rookie at left guard. And now you truly do have a young but still largely inexperienced offensive line that's just half of that is what it is. And especially if, you know, Morgan Moses retires this offseason and, you know, let's say they do move on from Mike Onwenu. That's just a lot of moving parts, and I think it's just better to find a way to make one change, 2 at most. But if you're really trying to move guys around the line, and I mean, fundamentally, if you're moving from left guard to center, it may not sound like a lot, but that changes who you're blocking, that changes who you're stepping to, and really a lot of what football is muscle memory. And if you're having to make the adjustment of, like, okay, rather than blocking the 3 technique, now I'm having to, you know, kind of chip block or, you know, dual block the 3 technique and then move up to the linebacker. It's those extra things that you don't really think about, that can fundamentally change how an offensive line functions. So I definitely think it's a good question, though. I think as far as defensively, There was another really good question. Kraft. All respect to Terrell Williams and his situation, as well as
Which
that.
one?
Oh, that's a great question. I have no idea. He just lists himself as Kraft. One of the more interesting things that about the Patriots this season is that their defensive coordinator, or at least their defensive play caller, is not the intended defensive coordinator coming into the season. They hired Terrell Williams. And the question goes, all respect to Terrell Williams and his situation, as well as Zach Core for stepping up. It's hard to ask. It's hard to ask so much from the guy who was brought in to coach the linebackers, but assuming he's probably not going to be the long-term option, and that Terrell Williams is unable to come back into the building. Obviously, he's undergoing cancer treatment. Is there anyone the Patriots could maybe look at with Vrabel connections that they could bring him to be the defensive coordinator next season?
Well, he is, because he worked with him in Tennessee, and he was under Shane Bowen with the Giants, who also was with Vrabel in Tennessee. So, like, they go back years at this point, right? So, if anything, if there is a sort of kind of new DC next year, I think it would be him, because he already has experience calling it, and he has so much experience with Vrabel. They speak the same language defensively. Also, I did not know it was Core. I thought it was Kerr. So that's.
I've heard Kerr, Core. I thought it was
I
Zach
might have been
Zur to start the
mispronouncing it
year
this whole
because I didn't know that it was a K. I thought it was a Z to start the year. So.
But if we're looking for somebody with a Vrabel connection, like, he's it. So it really depends on if you just think he's been calling the defense well this year or not. I would say before the Milton injury, I thought he was doing just fine. Obviously pass defense without a great edge rush rotation, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But the run defense, I thought, pre-Milton injury was playing its ass off.
Yeah.
So I think he's earned. If Terrell's not coming back, I think he's earned another year.
Yeah, I think that they would probably transition Terrell Williams to like some sort of front office role where he's less physically on the field, and because his mind is still an incredible defensive mind, and I know that he can get the most out of these guys. I don't think his body can physically handle that right now. But
he can be like half of an Ernie Adams,
sure.
Just for the defense.
Sure, yeah. I think it is interesting as well, because I think what the Patriots have struggled with, and kind of speaking more on the depth piece and kind of the struggles of the Patriots defense, because there was a stat that came out that they were 31st in rush EPA allowed per game since like week 9 or week 10, something like that. And
Milton got hurt week 10, right?
Yeah, so it kind of coincides with that. I do think that the Patriots have to address the front seven this offseason. And I was actually looking at a couple of names. One of the names that I really liked, it's a linebacker, a true off-ball linebacker, but Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. I think he's the perfect Mike Vrabel linebacker. Like, I think what they would want, or what they wanted Rashaan Evans to be when they drafted him out of Alabama for the Titans, right? Like, he's that big, physical, true Mike backer that's going to, like, be just a menace in the run game. And I think that they need a guy like that. And I think them not having Spillane has, with his injury, whatever it is, has definitely contributed to that. Because really, I think, to me, the bigger issue is you just don't really have size in the linebacker room. You've got all these kind of like smaller hybrid Sam and Will Backer types that, like, can kind of do a little bit of coverage stuff, can kind of do a little bit of run defense stuff, but like, I think they need a big, like, Dante Hightower style body, and that to me is what Sonny Styles is.
Yeah, and I think he complements what they already have, because Spillane isn't small, but he is a lighter body. That's why he's better in coverage than Ellis. Ellis, he's like 235, so I wouldn't consider him small either. He's like a normal, solid. He's what I consider linebacker size these days, 235, which 15 years ago that was what light linebackers were. But I don't think he moves as well as Sonny does. So from a coverage perspective, Sonny's an upgrade there. Obviously Jelani's bigger, but doesn't move nearly as well as Sonny does. Marte Mapu is smaller, but also plays a different role. And then Chad Muma just never really turned into what I thought he would be as a linebacker. So you're hoping that he, contributes as a special teamer. But as far as the best combination of size, length, physicality, can play the run, but also has the athleticism to be a better coverage defender than their current bigger body linebackers, yeah, it's Sonny Styles.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he's a linebacker, so he's probably going to be there when they pick, which is going to be, 25 to 30, somewhere in that range.
I would say that's probably a reasonable guess. And, I would say Arvell Reese, but I just don't even think he gets out of the top 10. So,
He's going to be long.
Yeah.
Also, here's the other thing with Sonny. He knows the defensive language because he's under Patricia.
That's definitely true. Yeah, I mean, the Patriots connections definitely are palpable there. I think that. Let me see. Is there any more questions I wanted to ask you? You know what? Let me ask you this, because we really didn't touch on the Patriots win streak. We kind of just went off season into Bills loss into off season, and we really missed a lot of the middle there. Kind of talking about what led to the Patriots' success in your mind in that win streak, because it really seemed like the Patriots were headed for kind of exactly what people were projecting, right? Like kind of a 500 fringy playoff-ish team that on their day could take, be better than the bad teams and worse than the good teams. And after that Bills game and really after that Bucks game, where I think a lot of people were like, okay, well, you're going to take 2 losses in this stretch. They really just took off, and I think it took kind of everybody by surprise. What in your mind kind of led to that sort of success?
Unironically, Marcus Jones. It's not just Marcus Jones, but it's what Marcus Jones represents, which is anytime this team was in a scrap and they just needed a big play, somebody like Marcus Jones would make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You get a big return out of him or a pick. You get a clutch 3rd and forever from Stephon Diggs. You get a big gainer to pop over the top. You get a Travion, either big run or big return once he started coming on. Drake would do some wild ass shit and make a throw that you haven't seen a Patriots quarterback make maybe ever, right? Considering Tom wasn't exactly the most mobile guy, and Drake can do stuff while running that Tom never could. And yeah, they were in these just kind of down and dirty fights throughout the season and pulled a few of those out just because they had some playmakers make plays when they needed them. But they were learning how to do that at the same time because they were overcoming mistakes early in the year. I look at the Raiders game, which I'll tell you what, after watching that film, Josh McDaniels probably wanted that one back because he had some really shitty calls in that game. He was still figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
You have the Ramondre fumble palooza in the first month of the season. You had some really bad sacks that Drake was taking early on because he was still trying to do too much at times, and he was taking some really, really atrocious sacks that were not the offensive line's fault. But once you got to, I'd say, week 5 or 6, they ran into a bad team. I think it was the Titans, where they kind of put everything together, and they realized, oh, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
We're really, really good. And they just blew somebody out. I think it was Tennessee.
Here, let me find it really quickly. It was the Panthers.
Panthers, that's what it was. Where you got the Marcus Jones returns and everything like that. Yeah, that was the turning point because you had some really clutch plays, but you had some really horrific mistakes early on. Then you get to the Panthers game, and then they would get into these scraps after the Panthers game, and it felt like the Panthers game gave them the belief of oh no, we're actually really good at this. Mm-hmm. And you would get the clutch Stephon, Marcus, Travion, Drake, Milton. You would get these clutch plays from the guys that you're hoping to get clutch plays from. And they would just rip off win after win after win by making those plays when they absolutely needed to. And if they didn't have that win over Carolina, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have been in the hunt for the 1 seed, but that game really did feel like that's what gave them the belief that last year was not going to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it, right, and it's like the the Steelers game ends up happening. You turn the ball over 5 times, and I think they just used the Panthers as just this punching bag where they just unleashed holy hellfire on them for 4 quarters, and
Yep.
and played just. I think the biggest thing for them in that game, more than anything, was playing a complete 4 quarters of football where
Hmm.
really the special teams looked good, the offense looked good, the defense looked good, and that game was the Panthers didn't score 10 points until the end of the game where they just gave up like a cupcake touchdown to like Mitchell Evans right in the like final moments.
Yeah.
So um,
And what happened the week after Carolina?
they beat
They
the
beat the
they
Bills,
beat the
which then
Bills.
again reinforced the belief. Then you beat the Saints. Again, you beat the shit out of the Titans, so that did actually happen. You beat the shit out of the Browns. They had a tight one with Atlanta,
Yeah, that
which
was a
Atlanta
weird
tends
one.
to do. Atlanta will give teams problems. They're not going to win a lot, but they will give teams
I do
problems.
got to ask you this as well because what's so weird and I think it kind of all culminated in the Bills' loss was the Patriots when they hold the lead at half come out really really slow for the third quarter, and it's what let the Falcons back into the game. It's kind of what let the Bucks back into the game. The Bengals game, obviously the Bills game. There was some moments in that Giants game as well where you were like, "Oh shit, are the Giants
Mhm.
really about to come back in this thing?" And
Yeah.
what kind of adjustments are teams sort of making to the Patriots coming out of the half? Like obviously that's the time to make your adjustments, but it to me, I'm used to teams being second half teams. Like Mercer was a second half team most of this year, where we'd go into half and we'd come out rip roaring and firing. But the Patriots have been very very sluggish in the second half, and I'm curious like what have teams done that has really affected the Patriots?
So I'm pulling up the third and long stats here because I remember looking at this a couple weeks ago, and I want to get the exact right stat here. So third and long success rate, they are fourth overall. But if you're going into second half, in particular, if you're going into third quarter, let me pull that up here. Ba, 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 ba. They are, where did they go? They're not fourth, I'll tell you that much. They dropped down to 31.8%. So even though overall they are a very good third and long team, I want to take a deeper dive into their third and long plan coming out of half, or rather what teams are adjusting to in third and long. Because when they get those, tackles for loss on first down on Travion, or they get a second down sack when, Drake just takes one of his bad sacks that he tends to take. Again, I love the kid, but that's the one thing he's got to fix. When they get into third and long situations, overall they've been very good, but coming out in the third quarter, they've I don't want to say fallen off, but there has been a noticeable dip in
Yes.
their effectiveness on third and long. So again, I don't have a complete answer for you, but I do know I've noted that is a trend where they are not as good at digging themselves out of holes coming out of halftime, the holes that they would dig themselves out of in the first half. So I would need to actually go through and do the work to like, okay, what kind of different coverages are we getting in the third quarter versus the first half? Are teams blitzing them more? Like, what are the changes that are being made from first half to second half to get them off the field when in the first half they couldn't? But I do know that is a trend. The data's there. I just don't have the why at the moment.
And I guess I can ask this question because really the one guy we haven't really done a deep dive into, and it's kind of shocking because he's kind of in the story of the Patriots season, is Drake May, and I mean, you know this of me. I was a Drake May fan before the season started, like before his last season at UNC.
Yeah, you were on him after his sophomore year.
Yeah, like he just to me, you look at that profile and kind of what the issues that people were talking about, it felt very similar to me of like Justin Herbert when he was coming out, where there were a lot of and you would know this as well as anybody. I mean, you made a video about how bad Justin Herbert is coming out, and he's turned into a great player. So I apologize for bringing that up, but I know it's one of your many.
But here's the thing. I liked Drake. I learned from the lesson. I liked
Yeah.
Drake. where I was like, oh, here's this tall, gangly, strong-armed kid who makes ridiculous throws on the run. He's probably pretty good. Just trust what you see.
Yeah.
Even though his last year at North Carolina, a lot of people were down on him because statistically he wasn't as good. His film also wasn't technically as good. But if you were reading the forest through the trees here, he was kind of fighting for his life because the talent around him was terrible.
Yeah.
Which wasn't that dissimilar to Justin Herbert having no NFL skill position talent his last year at Oregon. Like he had a good offensive line, but he wasn't really throwing to anybody out there. So again, that was my mistake, was not taking not taking context accordingly with Justin and paying more attention to the context with Drake. But again, he's got to stop taking bad sacks. He's been sacked 40 plus times this year. He's like the fourth most sacked quarterback. And I'm telling you right now, the Patriots offensive line is not that bad. A
really
lot of those
isn't.
sacks are on him.
Yeah.
So he's got to stop doing it. Like if you want to talk about why they get into these second half slumps, usually it's because he took a really dumb shit sack and ended the drive and put them into a bad position, and then they stall and then they stall again. And I'll tell you what, 30 minutes left turns into 15 minutes left real quick.
Yeah.
When you're stalling like that.
No, 100%. And it actually is a question that we got here. I think it was from Canada. He said, what are some areas of improvement for Drake made this offseason? Obviously outside of the taking the many sacks.
Outside of the taking bad sacks thing.
Yeah. To me, I have a hard time thinking of things that he can truly improve upon, because the deep balls, I mean, just unbelievable. Like I have a hard time thinking of the last time that I saw deep passes that were like as at the rate that they are, as successful as they are.
It's rare.
And I think he's doing a great job of reading defenses, going through his progressions. Like this has actually been a topic of discussion the last couple of weeks of like, what is it, the pure progressions versus what is it, full field reads, or I forget the exact.
Some people call them coverage reads, snapshot reads. There's a couple different names for it, but it's basically I see something pre-snap and I'm going to one side of the field, right?
Yeah.
And
I think Drake is working through his progressions more than taking a coverage snapshot.
And he has to.
Mm-hmm.
He has to, because defenses are just so rotation heavy this year. I mean, I literally did a video on how teams are still calling cover 3 the same amount that they used to. It's just they're rotating into it more, which has necessitated, going into more pure progression passing, as many quarterbacks and coaches have talked about in the last week. But that is not how a lot of college offenses are structured, including the ones at North Carolina, because the hashes are wider, and so you are seeing true split field coverages where we're playing something over here, we're playing something over here, you're reading it before the snap. Not a whole lot of rotation because, again, there's more space because of the wider hashes, so rotations are not as easy to do, I guess, because you have to cover so much more ground. And so if you're in college with these true split field coverages, the pre-snap picture is much easier to decipher, and therefore you are using these snapshot or coverage reads. And J.J. McCarthy had talked about how he had to completely rewire how he's playing quarterback because he didn't do that at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not used to doing a 1, 2, 3, hit my backside 4 and check down 5.
That's why he was so confident in college, right? Like that's why every single pass was like this 50 million mile an hour bullet, because he's like, okay, well that's cover 2, so I'm just gonna go hit the honey hole shot, or that's cover 1, so I'm just gonna shoot the fade ball. Like that was his read every single time.
So many quarterback. You look at Jaden when he was at LSU. 50% of his yardage was on goes and curls. 50%, because it was, I see single high, I throw the fade. Like there was no discussion, there was no decision. It's just I'm gonna throw it. And when you have Malik Neighbors and BTJ, it's probably going to work.
Yeah.
But like it's not NFL quarterbacking, or rather, yes, it's a throw that NFL quarterbacks have to make, and the physical component of making the throw is important. Obviously, that's great. He can do that. But that's not how NFL quarterbacks operate and read defenses and make decisions. So it wasn't that it was, Jaden's guaranteed to fail. It's more so, I don't know what this is going to look like.
Yeah.
I have no idea. So, he had a great rookie year, struggled in year 2 with injuries. The book is still not written on Jaden Daniels, but the criticisms of the LSU system were very valid, in my opinion.
Yes, and actually that affected me in my in my evaluation of him because I'm like, listen, I definitely understand that like because a lot of the narrative coming into the draft season was like, oh, they have this simulator at LSU and he has like 2,000 or 3,000 more reps than every other quarterback in the league just because he's high density
it's reps
of reps.
Doing what?
Yeah.
Reps doing what? Like what is the simulation? Because if the simulation is see one high, throw fade, that's not going to fucking help him. Like it's not what the NFL's going to be like.
Yeah.
So it's like reps doing what? That's the important thing.
Yeah, and it is kind of remarkable that when he does play, he's an incredibly successful quarterback. It's just like I'm scared he's very quickly becoming like an RG3 sort of figure when it comes to like just continuing to find his way into the injury report of like and to me actually that was actually a big concern coming out because he was taking these mammoth shots coming out of LSU, like that one hit against Ole Miss, I will never forget it.
Dude.
Or that
brutal.
Or that one play against Florida State where he like inexplicably just decides to jump into a pile and just gets body slammed. Like, what
Brother,
he
got folded in half. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, slide. What are you doing?
And I was
this
like,
Looney
Tunes. You can't do that in the league. Like, you have bigger linebackers that are going to hit you way harder, and it's going to hurt a lot more. And what's weird is that, like, some of these injuries that he's happening upon aren't even really his fault. Like, the most recent one was an interception where, as he's trying to go get the guy, like, and he should go get the guy, he just gets pushed over and he lands on his shoulder and he gets injured. It's like, well, that's just natural football.
The elbow one, complete freak accident. Like, you can't. I don't necessarily think he's injury prone, but my God, he's unlucky. Right? And it is unfortunate that we didn't get to see if Jaden would actually take yet another step this year because of the injuries. Again, I am not on like Jaden fraud watch whatsoever. I think he's really good. But
do you think that his lean frame kind of contributes to potentially getting injured a little bit more? Because like he does look slimmer in frame, even if he may actually be bigger in real life, but like on film it looks like he's just this slender sort of figure.
But so is Lamar's had some pretty slender years. Like now there have been a couple seasons where Lamar came out as like a beefy boy, but he didn't like playing at that weight as much, so he slimmed down last year famously and looked fairly similar frame wise to Jaden in my opinion, and he's never had to deal with that kind of injury. He's more had to deal with like soft tissue injuries or apparently getting the flu every single year, but like he's never been somebody who's consistently had weird shoulder, elbow, knee. Like this year was kind of a new thing for him.
I will wrap it up with this question. If you had to choose a position for the Patriots to like emphasize and target this offseason, like, hey, we're going to spend all of our money and it's going to be on this one position, even if it's like one player, what would it be?
Edge. You got to get a closer.
Yeah.
You get up 21-0, get somebody who's going to finish the game.
I think the biggest issue is that the mark of success in my eyes is a team that can consistently get pressure with 4 down linemen. And the Patriots just aren't that team. They're very creative up front and have so many diverse blitz packages and sim pressures. Every team has that. And it fucks with teams, blocking rules and blocking assignments and you can create free rushers. I just think that if the Patriots can, the one thing that's going to stop the Patriots from taking that next step is they cannot be a better coverage unit than they are a pass rushing unit. And I don't think that there's any team in the league that can operate that way and have sustained success. Like, I think the Chiefs are in some ways that way. Like, I think they're a better cover unit than they are a pass rushing unit, and it has led to situations where, especially late in games, Like, I don't want to have to rely on George Karlaftis to get me a one-on-one win. Like, that's just not for me. So
whether it's whether it's a big swing for Max or a little baby deal for Trey Hendrickson, or I don't know if you'll be able to get. Well, Jalen Phillips is probably going to get re-signed in Philly, so that one's probably off the table. Maybe make a call to the Steelers about Highsmith or Herbig, one of those two. God, there's not a whole lot of other vets that I think are going to be available. So at that point, you're looking at drafting one, but like, don't just get one, get two. Honestly,
I also kind of like the idea of, and this is, I think it's a very low key issue right now, but it could become a very big issue. Is tight end. I think that the tight end room is scarily thin, and relying off of Hunter Henry to be your guy, it has continued to work because he is just the security safety blanket that all teams want. There are notable tight ends this offseason that you can go out and get. David Njoku is probably the name that you can go and get. Kyle Pitts is another name. But yeah. To me, I don't want the Patriots, especially a Josh McDaniels offense, which loves to emphasize those 12 personnel and jumbo package looks. They have a kid that is going to be their fullback next year in Brock Lampy, who was a UDFA, who was apparently going to be a part of the 53-man roster, and then he got injured and Jack Westover became the new fullback, and mixed results on that front. But then Austin Hooper has been your backup tight end, and he has been perfectly fine, but you can if you have the ability to get better at the tight end position, especially a team that wants to play 12 and 22 personnel packages, go and upgrade at the tight end position and go get better, because I think that is a way that you can diversify this Patriots offense. But
so what you're saying is go get Kenyon Sadiq.
Go get Kenyon Sadiq is that's going to be the motto this offseason. The problem is that the last couple of years I have found my guy that I am just like obsessed with, and like Drake May was like that name a couple of years ago, and like, I mean, I did a stream for that draft and I nearly cried when the Patriots took him, because I was like, dude, you just can't ask for any better than that. But I have yet to find my guy this season, and I think a lot of it is just due to the quality of this draft, and it's just very, very frustrating. But
what about Rohan from Arkansas? Blanking on the last name. 6'1", 230. Fullback, H-back extraordinaire. has like 15 explosive catches this year, which for a college tight end is actually a lot.
I mean, if I could get Jeremiah Love and then you just have a backfield of Jeremiah Love and Travion Henderson, that'd be pretty neat.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what the Patriots need, is a running back. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I will end it off there. Brett, thank you so much for being on. I texted you before, like it's a freaking honor and a pleasure to help you out with everything, and for you to help return the favor. Like, it means the world to me, man. Seriously, like
Of course.
You're the best. So.
No, I appreciate you guys asking me to come on. I really do. Always have fun here, and it's a lot. What's the word? More positive this time compared to last time. So it's been nice.
I can't even tell you how happy I am that we're not talking about like, hey, so like, what should we do with our 3rd round pick? How many holes can we feasibly fill on this roster this offseason with the available draft capital we have? And like that I'm so happy I'm done with that conversation. Because while it's fun to talk about the top prospects, it's also not fun to have your team win 4 games.
Yeah, Patriots fans aren't doing mock drafts in October. It's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Texans fans and Steelers fans and Jets fans of the world are definitely happy for us. They're happy that we're back. So.
Oh boy. Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm happy to come back anytime.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. You take care now.
Thank you.
Man, that was fun, guys. That was fun. I hate that guy. He sucks. He's the worst. God, I hate him so. No, but he's awesome. So I appreciate everybody for coming out. The fact that we managed to maintain as many people in the audience as we had, it just means a lot to me. So thank you to you guys. Thank you to thank you to the mod team for helping facilitate this. It's a freaking honor and a pleasure to be doing this stuff for you guys. So I appreciate you guys. We will be back on Sunday night for pregame coverage of Patriots versus Ravens. And until then, go Patriots.